When people think about paying their tax debt back to the IRS, the biggest question on their mind is, why? Why should I have to pay it all back? I'd like to pay the IRS less than what they say I owe. And that's where most people think the offer and compromise programs delivers. But these days, it's sometimes better to be into an installment agreement. An installment agreement? My name is Josh Webskowski with Best Tax Pro, one of the nation's best tax resolution teams. Our team has hundreds of years of experience working with the IRS, and we have former IRS revenue agents, tax attorneys, enrolled agents, and CPAs working on our team. And yes, I said an installment agreement. Can you see yourself in an installment agreement that allows you to pay something other than what fully paying the IRS the entire tax liability is? These are called partial payment installment agreements, where you pay the IRS what you can afford to pay and not the entire tax liability. That's how the partial pay installment agreement works, and it's a lot like an offer and compromise. Either way, setting up an installment agreement isn't always a once and done sort of thing. If you owe less than $50,000 to the IRS, you can set up a self-service installment agreement. But no matter how long it takes you, the IRS is considering your installment agreement. That installment agreement makes the IRS pause from taking aggressive collections activities against you. But keep in mind, the IRS doesn't consider filing a notice of federal tax lien to be an aggressive collections activity. The IRS sees it as, this notice of federal tax lien is a public filing by us, the IRS, with the state or county, and it just informs the public that if you or any taxpayer in the United States owes the United States some tax money and you try to sell your house, we want to be in first place. We want our money. That is, the U.S. government gets their money first. But that's not considered an aggressive collections activity. Before you even think about filing an installment agreement, 3 things have to be in place. Number 1, you have to have filed at least the last 6 years worth of tax returns to be in compliance with the IRS. Number 2, you need to have paid in your current tax liabilities. And that doesn't mean just you need to have all of your taxes paid. It just means that for self-employed individuals or for business owners, you just have to be current in your quarterly estimated payroll tax payments, which means paying your employees' taxes, holdings, and then the other estimated tax payments that you might have in place. If you apply for an installment agreement and it gets rejected, great. You can appeal. So you have appeal rights with that installment agreement. And you don't expect to get any tax refunds if it gets accepted, because if you're in an installment agreement, while you're in that installment agreement, the penalties and interest continue to grow and any refunds get paid against that liability. So it's not a perfect world, but at least you're paying down your tax debt. And an installment agreement isn't guaranteed for just everybody. From time to time, the IRS will reject one. And like I said earlier, you can appeal your application. So they have a 10-year collection statute expiration date, which means they have 10 years to collect from the date the return was filed or the tax liability began to exist. In an installment agreement, the IRS will have a little more time to collect your tax debt. And this is because the IRS has to pause collections while it's considering your installment agreement. And if your installment agreement defaults, there's an additional 30 days that they have to pause added to the collection statute expiration date, or the 10 years that they have to collect your tax debt. And remember that you have options when it comes to making your installment agreement payments. If you owe over $50,000 to the IRS, you can use a few forms to paint a beautiful picture of your personal financial situation with. And these collection information statements help the IRS make decisions on how they treat someone who owes them some money. So if you want to pay your entire tax liability, that's great, but that's not tax relief. That's what I would call paying your taxes. However, there is an art and a science in completing your IRS collection information statements, and that's what we specialize in. If you want to take a look at a partial payment installment agreement, which is a form of tax relief and not merely paying your taxes, give us a call at 763-477-4205. or click on the link below to schedule your free 30-minute consultation to see how we might be able to take you into an installment agreement and help you settle your tax debt. My name is Josh Wibskowski with Best Tax Pro, and I hope you've learned something today, and I look forward to hearing from you.